Hey guys, by Austin Ramos, and this Sunday, the Miami Dolphins defeated the Washington Commanders 45-15 in a big win for the Miami Dolphins, improving to 9-3, first time since 2001. The Commanders unfortunately fall to what is it now, 4-9. Not a good look for them. Dolphins came out fast and didn't turn over the ball, and that was a huge part in them getting a win here. But let's get straight into the highlights. And who else? The number 10 on the Miami Dolphins, the Cheetah, Tyreek Hill, getting wide open. This is for a 78-yard touchdown, I want to say. And everyone, buckle up, because we're going on a roller coaster ride. Yes, sir. The Miami Dolphins having a blast early in this one. This is the first touchdown of the game, and the Cheetah feeling it. So is Tua. And then the defense said, hey, what about us? Andrew Van Gingo stepping in big time for Jalen Phillips, and he's making his presence felt early and often in this game. He had a huge first half. They started to key in on him a little bit more in the second half, but yeah, a pick six for Andrew Van Gingo. I feel like I've seen that before somewhere. Yeah, reminiscent of that Los Angeles Rams game. Curtis Samuel getting open for the Commanders. Jerome Baker would get injured on that play. Status on his injury is uncertain. Sam Howell, rushing touchdown. And another deep ball for Tyreek Hill. Tua just lofts it up, and Tyreek goes out there and finds it. Raheem Mostert getting in the end zone. Big day by these two guys. And how about a return for Devon Achane? Couldn't get going in the game against the Raiders. Gets a touchdown in this one. He actually gets two by the end of the day. Sam Howell on the move, finding Antonio Gibson. Way to make a move, Gibson. Sam Howell feeling some pressure, and he's zigging and zagging, and he's finding his way into the end zone for 6. Commanders would go for 2 here and get it with a Logan Thomas 2-point conversion. And then last but not least, Devon Achane, rushing touchdown, handoff by Mike White, getting himself into the mix. Big blowout win, so Mike White gets some snaps. All right. Team stats, and then we'll get into some individual stats and how the Miami Dolphins won this football game. So first and foremost, Dolphins had 20 first downs to the Washington Commanders 11. Let's see where else we can pick this up from. Red zone attempts. Dolphins were 3 for 3 in the red zone. Washington was 2 for 2 in the red zone. Not so many penalties in this game, which is pretty good to see, especially for both teams. Dolphins had 2 penalties for 15 total yards. Washington had 3 penalties for 31 total yards. Washington had a turnover. Dolphins had 0. Huge point of emphasis from me. And then last but not least, time of possession, 32 minutes and 16 seconds for the Dolphins, 27 minutes and 44 seconds for the Washington Commanders. We're going to skip over the individual stats right now for a quick second. I'm going to just talk about how the Miami Dolphins won this game. First and foremost, I wanted them to spread out the ball. I think they did a good job of it, but the big thing was the 2 early touchdowns to Tyreek Hill that were bombs, and the rushing touchdown by Raheem Mostert, the pick 6. I mean, that just really just separated the Miami Dolphins from the Washington Commanders. And then I wouldn't say the Dolphins necessarily took their foot off the gas, because they scored a touchdown in every single quarter. That's awesome. This is what you should be doing against teams like the Washington Commanders. But as far as everything else goes in terms of offense development, not a big step back, but not a big step forward. You have Tyreek Hill, 5 receptions, Waddle, 5 receptions, Achane, 3 receptions, and then it's Julian Hill and Trevor Craycraft for 2, and then Raheem Mostert and Ali can go to 1. A little bit of a better spread in terms of passing ball. Rushing, we'll talk about in a second, but offensively, needs to develop the rest of the team around the rest of the star players on the Miami Dolphins. That's for sure. But overall, not a bad offensive performance at all. Scoring 45 points, not bad at all. Defensively, made Sam Howell uncomfortable. Defense was getting back there in the backfield, making their presence felt big time. And then last but not least, it was not turning over the ball. And the Miami Dolphins did not have a single turnover in this game, and that was a godsend, because the Dolphins have been struggling with ball security, with fumbles, Tua throwing interceptions, and none of that happened today. And so that's an awesome game. No sacks either on Tua, which is all fine and dandy. But yeah, let's get back to the box score. So we have Tua with 18 of 24 passing, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like I said earlier, no sacks. Mike White went 1 for 1 with 3 yards. And then Sam Howell went 12 of 23, 127 yards. What else? 1 interception, sacked 3 times for a loss of 20. So good job on the defensive line there. Achan, 17 carries, 73 yards, 2 touchdowns, longest of 15. Raheem Mostert, 11 carries, 43 yards, 1 touchdown. They shut him down pretty early and let Achan just take most of the workload after that because Dolphins were already out to a big lead after Mostert got his touchdown. Jeff Wilson, 4 carries for 11 yards. And then for the Commanders, Brian Robinson, 7 carries, 53 total yards. Antonio Gibson, 10 carries, 35 yards. Brian Robinson got hurt around halftime. Not good for the Washington Commanders. Sorry, guys, about that. Chris Rodriguez stepped in. He got 7 carries for 29 yards. And then Sam Howell, 4 carries, 21 total yards, 2 touchdowns, the longest of 13, which was that touchdown run. And then receiving, Tyreek Hill, 5 receptions, 157 total yards, 2 touchdowns, longest of 78. So big day by Tyreek Hill. Was really hoping he would eclipse the 200-yard mark, but fortunately couldn't get it done. And then Waddle, 5 receptions, 52 total yards. Devon Achan, 3 receptions for 30 yards. And then Julian Hill, 2 receptions, 23. River Craycraft, 2 receptions, 16. Raheem Mostert, 1 reception, 8 yards. And then Alec Ingold, 1 reception for a loss of 3. As far as the Commanders go, Curtis Samuel, 4 receptions, 65 total yards. Longest of 33. Antonio Gibson, 4 receptions, 37 yards. But he had the longest of 32. Jahan Dotson, 2 receptions, 23 yards. Cole Turner, 1 reception, 2 yards. The biggest blemish on the day, especially for some people in fantasy, is Terry McLaurin. No receptions, no yards, 3 targets. Dolphins defense shut him down. Antonio Gibson had a fumble, but he did recover it. Defensively, the Miami Dolphins' leading tackler was David Long Jr. He had 8 total, 5 solo, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 QB hit. Duke Riley stepped in for the injured Jerome Baker. Had himself a pretty good game. 8 total tackles, 3 solo. And then Andrew Van Ginkel, probably defensive MVP for this game. 5 total tackles, 4 solo, 2 pass deflections, 2 QB hits, and a pick 6 touchdown for 33 total yards. And then let's see what other key stats we can go into. Bradley Chubb had half a sack. He shared that with Zach Sealer, who had 1.5 sacks. Also, Brandon Jones had a QB hit. Bradley Chubb, QB hit. Zach Sealer, 2 QB hits and a tackle for a loss. Deshaun Elliott with a pass deflection. Emmanuel Ogbah with 2 QB hits, 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack. And then last but not least, Xavier Howard with a pass deflection on Terry McLaurin. Big stop by him on that one. That was probably one that was in the end zone, I believe. Also, defensively for the Washington Commanders, Cody Barton with 11 total, 5 solo. Jamin Davis had 8 total, 5 solo, and 2 tackles for a loss, 1 pass deflection. Jatavius Martin had 7 total, 5 solo, and 1 tackle for a loss. Other key stats, Percy Butler with a pass deflection. He was in and out of the game a lot. He seemed like he was dealing with a rib injury. Kaliki Hudson had a QB hit. Deron Payne had a tackle for a loss. KJ Henry, tackle for a loss. Jonathan Allen, QB hit. Casey Tuhill had a tackle for a loss. And then let me see what else. That's about it for the key stats for Washington defense. Like I mentioned earlier, the Andrew Van Ginkel pick 6. Punt returns, back to barrels, 2 punt returns for 7 yards. Jamison Crowder, 1 punt return for 11 total yards. Kicking, Jay Sanders, 1 for 1 on field goals, 6 for 6 on extra points. Longest of 49 on this field goal. Joey Sly had a field goal attempt, did not make it, and then 1 for 1 on extra points. And then punting, Miami Dolphins, Jake Bailey, 3 punts, 127 yards, 1 of which was in the 20, longest of 47. And Tressway, 5 punts, 214 total yards, 2 of which were in the 20, longest of 51. As it stands right now, the Washington Commanders are in the bottom of their division, being 4-9. They have a bye week next week. The Giants are the only other team competing with them for the bottom there, and they are also on their current bye week right now. For the Miami Dolphins, the Dolphins improved to 9-3, hold a firm grasp on the lead for the AFC East, which is something that has been eluding the Miami Dolphins, especially as of late, and it's looking better and better each and every week. Buffalo on bye this week, so Dolphins get a good step up on them during that time. Jets fell today, so did the New York Patriots. Jets are now 4-8. Patriots are 2-10. Jets fans, the likelihood of seeing Aaron Rodgers is fading very, very fast. All right. Like I mentioned earlier, we were going to go over the keys to how the Dolphins won this game, but I kind of did before I went over the stats, but I'll do it again. Said the Dolphins offensively need to spread the ball around. I think they did that very non-dramatically. I don't know how else I would say it. Like, they were able to spread the ball around, but it was, once they got out to a big lead, they just didn't really need to. There wasn't long developing drives. It was more so like big quick hits to Tyreek Hill, good field positioning, stuff like that. There was probably 2 drives, I believe. Actually 3 drives that were long developing. That it was the last drive that was just, I believe, like a 6-minute clock burner. And then the other 2 that ended up being rushing touchdowns, one for Achane and one for Raheem Mostert. So there were those type of drives, but aside from that, Dolphins just quick hits. Touchdown from Tyreek Hill. Touchdown, pick 6, Andrew Van Ginkel. Touchdown, Tyreek Hill again. And it was just like they were out to such a big lead, and they held on to that. They played well enough to secure that. Defensively, pressure Howe, make them uncomfortable, limit the running game. 138 total rushing yards, but their leading rusher had 53, but he went out at halftime. Aside from that, a collective 80 yards from the rest of the guys. I would say defense did a pretty good job stopping the run. Making Sam Howell uncomfortable, did that. 3 total sacks for a loss of 20. And I believe there were, how many QB hits? There were 9 QB hits. So defense was swarming to the quarterback. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then limiting turnovers. Dolphins forced 1 turnover, which was a really big one in the pick 6, and didn't have one in a single game. So big building block for the Miami Dolphins. I think this was a game that was much needed. They alluded to it a lot during the broadcast, how this position last year, this is where the Dolphins went on a 5-game losing streak to kind of get themselves removed from the playoffs. I love that they were able to flip the page and really get a big win here. McDaniel used that as motivation. He's like, guys, remember what happened at this point last year? We went on a big slide. Let's not have that happen. And Dolphins came out with some assertiveness. Next game for the Miami Dolphins against Tennessee Titans, Monday Night Football, December 17th, 8:15 kickoff. I'm hyped. Big home game for the Miami Dolphins. The return of Ryan Tannehill. They haven't flexed it out yet, so I would imagine they're not. But aside from that, Dolphins have a really big chance to improve to double-digit wins, probably for the first time, I want to say, since 2016, if I'm not mistaken. I think they got 10 wins that year. But, yeah, it's been a long time since this Dolphins team has been able to have well-sustained success throughout an entire season. So it's kind of weird, the feeling that's going on right now. But, you know, this is a big game for the Miami Dolphins. You don't want to get shown up on primetime at your own house, probably wearing throwbacks, so on and so forth. And then they have a tough stretch to close off the season. The last 4 games are probably one of the toughest games for the Miami Dolphins. And bear with me. I know the Jets don't look great, but they always play the Dolphins tough. We embarrassed them in their own home, so they want to return the favor. So Miami Dolphins versus the Jets, then Cowboys, and then go on to the road to play the Baltimore Ravens, and then close out the season at home against the Buffalo Bills. This is going to be such an interesting stretch of football for the Miami Dolphins. And if they could win at least half of those games, I love the position they're in. On top of that, the Bills would need to be perfect if the Dolphins just won 2 of those games, especially if one of them is against the Bills. But the Bills would have to be perfect in order to turn this around and possibly win out this division. But that's with the expectation that the Dolphins start win against the Titans, possibly the Jets, and either one of the Cowboys, Ravens, or Bills games is a win. But hey, things are looking good. Tyreek Hill gets closer and closer each and every week to hopefully getting that 2,000-yard mark, which I really want to see. I was really hoping he would probably break the 200 today, but they pulled him out really early. Didn't play the rest of the fourth quarter, so hats off to him. Didn't need to. But yeah, this pretty much wraps it up. 9-3 Miami Dolphins win, 45-15. And yeah, go on and play the Tennessee Titans next week. It's gonna be an interesting week ahead of us. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.